Right, now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome back. That's right. It's time for Pick and Go. And we're one round into the Super Rugby Pacific season for 2024. And there's plenty happening, Piri. Thanks for coming along and having a chat again. You get through the week okay?
Yeah, not too bad. Some bloody amazing results from some of the teams that we kind of picked. But yeah, looking forward. I mean, this week's going to be some even harder games to try and juggle, but it was a great weekend of footy.
Well, yeah, it's a super round this weekend, round 2, all games in Melbourne. But before we get to that, you'll notice that Searle isn't with us today. Now, he's a busy man, so he double booked himself. So I spoke with him earlier. And we'll get to what he had to say a wee bit later. But one of the questions I asked him was around the mouth guards and the controversy that we had in a number of games over the weekend. Piri, was it mandatory to wear a mouth guard when you were playing, or
not mandatory, but they always try to encourage us to wear them. It only takes so much impact away from actually, the biggest issue around concussion. But I mean, it's not going to protect you if they put you in if you get knocked in the right spot, where you put your head in the wrong spot, I should say. It's not going to protect you from getting knocked out.
Right. We saw Anton Leonard-Brown.
Saw that.
Confused. I would say confused as to why he was having to go off. Obviously, player safety is paramount, and that's something that obviously everyone wants at the forefront. But is it maybe the technology hasn't quite caught up with what the officials are trying to do here? I can understand that, yes, we want to minimise head contact and brain injuries, but it's the technology they're using. Do we need a wee bit of a tweak there first, Piri?
Yeah, I'm assuming so. I mean, I was confused myself watching bloody Anton Leonard-Brown run off the field, and he's like, "What's wrong?" There's nothing wrong with me, mate. And then, you've had to, and it's at a crucial time in the game too, when he's been asked to come off the field. But either that or they need something calibrated in the to get it right. But I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, I know they're just trying it out at this stage just to see how it goes. But I mean, if they're going to have issues, players are going to end up throwing them in the rubbish bin and going back to what they've always had, which is their normal mouth guard, so they don't have to deal with it. I probably would have. Well, they might just do what I did, put it in the sock. Put it in the sock.
I don't think you'd ever get pulled off for having the old mouth guard in the sock. It wouldn't take enough force against it. So anyway, as I said, Searle can't be with us. He's a busy man. But I spoke to him earlier, and here's what he had to say around that issue, and also what the rugby that got played in round 1. Righty-ho, I'm joined once again by Ben Searle of Searle Talk Sports. Ben, thanks for having a chat with us again. Week 1 under our belt, and it's a wee bit of it's a mixed up week for us because I'm talking to you now, and then I'm going to be talking to Piri later on, but we'll put it together somehow. First of all, looking back at week 1 or round 1, before we get to analysing a few of the games, your thoughts on the new technology surrounding the mouth guards?
Yeah, an interesting one. It certainly made waves early, didn't it? It made the headlines, got people talking. I like the concept and the idea of it. I just think it needs a bit of refining, as we saw, because there's all sorts of factors that can come into what gets recorded into a mouth guard. A player could just be chewing on it nervously and it could be recording all sorts of data. So I think the concept and anything we can do to help limit the damage done by head knocks and things like that, because so much of it does go unnoticed throughout a game. But obviously a few tweaks are needed to fine tune things, because we can't have the confusion and the situation that took on in that Chiefs vs Crusaders game.
Right. I agree with you there. To be fair, the actual concept is good, but with all new concepts, there's usually a few teething issues, and I think that's what we saw in round one of Super Rugby Pacific. So hopefully they can make a few tweaks, improve the technology, and hopefully player safety will be at the forefront, and there'll be less unnecessary, I guess, disruptions to the game with players having, as you say, maybe just chewed on their mouth guard a little bit too hard. You just mentioned the Crusaders Chiefs, a repeat of last year's big final, and what a way to start this year's competition. Huge game there in Hamilton. The Chiefs getting out to a big halftime lead. And once again, the Crusaders just come back. They will not die. And they actually took the lead late in the game, only to be undone by a couple of late penalties to the Chiefs. I guess you're out. You're sort of what you took from that game.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what you said. I actually thought the game was over and the Chiefs had won that game, and then the Crusaders, in such typical Crusaders fashion, they showed that even though they're missing some troops this year, you can never write them off during games, because they're a proud side. They're used to winning as well, and they almost pulled off one of the great comebacks. I feel like the Chiefs were the better footy side. I thought they were slightly more impressive. They fired a few more shots, so I think the result was a warranted one. But the Crusaders showed that, again, they're going to be a lot closer than some people might have thought, including myself. I had them as a semi-final side, but geez, they look like they could finish in that 1-2 again. I thought this was a really exciting game and the perfect way to kick off Super Rugby for the year, because there was plenty of razzle-dazzle. Both teams chucked the ball around, and there were some great individual performances as well.
Moving on from that, Brumby's way too good for the Rebels, and it looks like it could be a long season for the Melbourne-based side. Of course, they've got a whole lot of issues going on behind the scenes, and maybe that has sort of filtered down to the playing group as well. Anything from that game, apart from possibly the Brumbies being the best Australian side once again, anything else that you took out of that game?
Yeah, I thought the Brumbies looked good. And like you said, the Rebels, it just shows that the back office can affect the performances of the players at times. And it's interesting, Super Round this week, and it's in Melbourne. So it'll be interesting to see the type of turnout they get, because you could argue that the game isn't in the strongest of positions in that region at the moment. But it's going to be another long year for the Rebels. I thought they recruited quite well in the off-season, but still that's clearly not enough. Like you said, the Brumbies and probably the Reds look to be the strongest of the Aussie sides too. So really looking forward to this week's matchups, because they're going to take on some Kiwi sides and some pretty handy ones in that. So we'll get a good gauge as to where the Brumbies are at.
Right, the Hurricanes force and the Canes put on a bit of a performance, slightly surprising. Well, were you surprised by the margin of victory by the Canes over the Force? Always a tough place to go across to Western Australia, and playing at midnight New Zealand time. The body clock can be out of kilter. It didn't seem to be the case, though, for the Hurricanes. They got off to a quick start and just kept the pressure on throughout the game, to be fair.
Yeah, look, I need to make a massive apology to all the punters out there, your pick and go listeners, and everyone in general that took my advice, because I was pumping up the Force. I thought they looked good in preseason. Like you said, hardest place to go round one, you could argue, over to Perth, make the long trek and have that midnight game in pretty humid conditions. So I like the Force's chances to cover the line and even pull off the upset. I thought the Hurricanes had a bit of a disjointed preseason, but geez, did they prove me wrong? They looked unreal. That young lad on debut in the 9 jersey, I can see why they went with him. They've got 3 great halfbacks there now, so a great problem to have. But yeah, sorry to the punters. I heard from a few of them in my DMs. Hopefully I didn't ruin all your multis like I ruined Paulie's. And yeah, the Force look like they will be a pretty similar side to what they were last year. And the Hurricanes, they showed that they, again, like a couple other Kiwi sides, are well and truly title contenders.
I'm glad you mentioned the number 9 jersey, because with the, I guess the retirement of Aaron Smith, leaving the black number 9 jersey, that leaves it open for anyone who's willing to put their hand up, and you would think that Cam Roigard would be right towards the front of that queue. But the Canes showed that with the chauffeur, it was Viljoen. They've got it, and of course the old man TJ Perenara. They've got plenty of depth there, but there are a number of other sides in the Super Rugby comp that have got a bit of depth in the 9 role as well. Xavier Rowe played very well for the Crusaders. For the Chiefs, against the Crusaders. But the Crusaders also, they've got a bit of a battle on them for their number 9 jersey as well. So there's plenty of competition there.
Yeah, it's a stacked position, isn't it? I thought Folau Fakatava was really good on the weekend as well. He brings something a little different to all of those names we mentioned. But like you said, we were all in on Cortez Ratama to make a push for that. And it looks now like he's in a massive battle with Xavier Rowe just to wear the starting 9 jersey. So, yeah, plenty of halfbacks coming through. It's not a position we're going to be lacking in for years to come. Noah Hotham, another one that jumps out on paper, is looking every bit an All Black in the future. So it's a strong position for us in this country. And again, Australia and co, they would be lining up to have any one of these 6 or 7 guys in their roster.
Right. Blues, Fiji and Drua. The Blues look clinical without... No, they did. They look very, very good. I see the bookies have tightened them in the outright market as well. I guess they did enough. They got through the game, played well. They got a few combinations going. There was a lot of positives to take out of that game for the Blues.
Yeah, the Drua, we spoke last week about how much of a dangerous side they are, and that if you give them an opportunity to play running rugby, they'll make you pay. I thought the Blues played a very exciting brand of rugby and showed off their own skill set, scored some great tries, and they had opportunities to score more points as well. Just that final bit of execution let them down a little, but I'm still confident on my preseason take there, Chiefs Blues final. I just think that both those sides on paper, they have attacking threats all over the park. Hoskins Satutu was outstanding in a man of the match performance. So yeah, great signs for the Blues. They kind of continued that preseason dominance and showing that they can play some ad-lib footy, but they have a great structure there as well.
On to the last of the New Zealand teams on Saturday, the Highlanders up against Moana Pacifica, and Moana Pacifica took it to the Highlanders and gave them a wee bit of a fright, but in the end, a bit of Fakatava brilliance and maybe Moana just running out of a wee bit of gas towards the end there. But it doesn't look like they're going to be the easy beats this season, and the Highlanders had to play well to get over the top of them in the end.
Yeah, they did. It was interesting. I was talking to a few of my mates and kind of said, you know, what team impressed you the most out of round 1? And I was expecting the Chiefs or the Blues, and a lot of them said Moana just because of how far their game has come. The big thing for me will be depth throughout the season, and if they can sustain playing to that level of quality once they suffer a few injuries, because in a tournament like Super Rugby, you're going to have a couple. It's unavoidable. So hopefully they've got the depth in the squad to keep playing at that level. But yeah, they certainly put push the Highlanders. The Highlanders had to dig deep. At the same time, they showed that there's a lot of talent in that team. I thought Jacob Ratamavuki-Nitkin was outstanding. Sam Gilbert, we mentioned Fakatava. There's some handy young forwards in that pack as well. So, yeah, the future is looking bright for the Landers. 4 from 4. They're undefeated so far this year, if you count the preseason, which a few Highlanders fans in my life are. So, yeah, all looks bright down there. And they had a good crowd at the zoo as well, which you love to see.
So they didn't impress the bookies, I can give you the tip, because they have not moved their price in the outright market. Still $31, the Highlanders to win Super Rugby Pacific 2024. The other match, the Reds are taking their, I guess, state rivals, the Waratahs, in a high-scoring encounter, but the Reds never really troubled there, Searle.
No, and actually watching the replay of that game, I was actually quite impressed with the Reds, because I think out of the Aussie sides, they play the most like the Kiwi sides. They're not afraid to throw the ball around, use a bit of razzle. They've got some good names in that back line. That Hunter Pasami, the 12, there's talks of him going to the NRL and sides lining up for him. You do not want to run it straight at that bloke, because you'll walk away with at least a couple broken ribs. He can hit hard. So, touched on it earlier, that Reds game this weekend, I'm really keen to see how they go, because this is kind of a benchmark to see where they're at. They could be a real threat. They caused a couple upsets last year. They went over and bet the Chiefs in Hamilton. So perhaps they've kind of been buoyed by their 2023 campaign. A few experts out of Aussie, they're saying it's going to be a Reds-Chiefs final, I saw. So they're clearly bullish on the lads from Queensland.
Okay, round 1 done.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's a wee bit early, but is there a definitive line between the haves and the have-nots in this competition already, or do we wait another 3 or 4 weeks before we can make a call either way?
I think there is in terms of certain aspects, and then there isn't in others. Like I said, those Aussie sides, I'm really keen to see how they go against Kiwi teams. I do think that the Chiefs, the Blues, the Canes, and the Crusaders kind of flex their muscles and showed that, again, they're probably top 6 sides. So it's going to be interesting to see what other 2 teams fill up that paper, because I thought the draw were going to look a little stronger than they did. But once they get back home, they're a team you can't write off either. So still a few question marks to be had, but I think the cream certainly showed that they're certainly going to be at the top again this year.
Fantastic. Thanks, Searle. We'll catch up again with you towards the end of this podcast with your bets for round 2 and a little bit of a look back on where you placed your money for round 1 and whether you were successful or not. We've heard what Searle had to say. Let's get your thoughts, Piri, on round 1 and everything that went on there. I guess, first of all, we started off with a bang. The first game of the season, a replay of the grand final last year, 2 of the favourites going into this competition, 2 of the heavyweights, and it didn't disappoint.
No, not at all. I mean, the Chiefs come out hissing, didn't they? They looked like they were in form, and it didn't look like the Crusaders were going to be able to match them for 80 minutes, but true to form, after half-time, Crusaders do what they do and claw it back and take the lead, and then, it becomes a bit of a scrap to try and get momentum and get key moments in the game to allow you to get the win. So, yeah, it was very entertaining. I mean, watching the 2 heavyweights from last year's final go toe-to-toe and open our Super Rugby season up, and I'm not disappointed at all. It was a great game to watch.
You look at that game, and there are a number of standout performances from quite a few players across the field. DMAC, for one, looked very, very good. Definitely, and I think teams are going to have to just be a wee bit wary of kicking back to him under this new rule, which opens the field up for a counter-attack for a player just like DMAC.
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously he's playing in the back there at fullback, but can also come to the front and play and put guys into holes. But, yeah, seeing him just basically size up the opposition, see where their space is for himself, and then create opportunities for his teammates. It was good to actually see him stretch his legs and, play with that confidence that he's been playing the previous years.
I guess we should talk about the nines because we weren't quite sure who was going to have the 9 jersey on for the Chiefs, and in the end, Xavier Rowe put his hand up, and I don't know, but I don't know what sort of policy the Chiefs are going to have around that number 9 jersey, but it looks like off that performance, I know it's only one performance, but it looks like he said, "Pick me, coach, I'm the one."
Well, I guess it's always a big battle. I mean, the Hurricanes going to be going with that with TJ coming back into the fold, and Bill Ewan's played a huge game in his debut. So there's a lot of opportunities for these Nines to put their best foot forward. Obviously, Rowe got the nod, played outstanding, kept the momentum and the speed of the game flowing, so that the Crusaders couldn't slow things down and get themselves into the game. And then having that experience of Rehana come in at the end there sort of helps seal things. Sometimes when you come off the bench, you get a little too keen to do things instead of sticking to the game. I've done that plenty of times. Come off the bench, I'm like, nah, man, I'm not just going through the motions here. I want to play footy. So I've been in trouble a few times. But I mean, just to close out a game, that's always a huge thing. Understanding how long to go in the game, what you need to do, and how the team can do that. And I think they've got a good balance, and I don't think it matters who starts out of the two. I think with the both of them there, it depends on what game how fast they want to start the game and how they want to close it out.
Same with the Crusaders. They've got a bit of a battle in the 9 jersey as well. Well, in the 10 jersey as well. But the 9 jersey, it's not a done and dusted. It's not locked up. There's a bit of competition there as well. It's almost like no Aaron Smith, but we've got plenty of options. I know we don't have the experience that Aaron Smith had in terms of the black 9 jersey, but there's still plenty of competition there. There are any number of players sticking their hands up, and probably the halfback of the round one, Folau Fakatawa, who had a great game for the Highlanders and just showed that sort of X factor that he has with that around the back pass, no look, boom. I'm pretty sure I remember you doing one or two of them. I'm not sure if they connected with it.
No, they did. I didn't want to get in trouble. That's probably why I never threw them as much. No, across the board, like most of our franchises in New Zealand have got good depth in terms of competitions to get a starting spot. Obviously, each franchise has got their starter, but I mean, the next cab off the rank is actually nipping at their heels, and it makes for good competition, not just for the team, but for that space in terms of I'm actually a bit better, coach, put me in. If I get that chance, I won't let you down. So not only is it good for the young guys, but it's also good for the older guys. Obviously, Crusaders have got Drummond, started with Drummond, who's been a stalwart for the Crusaders for some time now. And, in terms of these up-and-coming players coming through that are nipping at his heels, it helps him show that he's still in charge. But the new flavour that's coming through with players and their talent means that they can finish off what he started.
Right, let's look at the Hurricanes now. And we were slightly concerned that they had to travel to Perth to take on the Force in round one. Starting the game at midnight New Zealand time. That could be, I mean, that was usually when you were on your way to Courtney Place. So
to get a feed.
So in the end, it was no problem for the Hurricanes. And boy, oh boy, did that pack look very, very good, which allowed the likes of Viljoen to show the skills that he has. They were dominant pretty much right across the park, the Hurricanes, and does that mean that they're really, really good, or does that mean the Force maybe are really, really bad?
Yeah, I guess if anyone would know, it'll be Searle. He took them up in the preseason. But no, I think it's just a good way to start their campaign off. Getting a win away in an area that's very tough in terms of the travel, the humidity over there. Those boys wouldn't have experienced that. It also for the team to go over there, travel and play outstanding across the board makes things a lot easier for the likes of Ewan, who can follow in his father's footsteps, actually, making his debut in the same team that his dad played in the Hurricanes. So when you've got a pack that's dominant and makes things a lot easier for you, all you have to do is get rid of the ball, and hopefully you can back up on the inside, or the boys can sort of express themselves, just because the pack's doing their job. I've been on the other end where our pack hasn't gone so well, but we've still managed to recover and get ourselves over the line and things like that. But when they are on song, you just got to go with it. And they showed really early that they're up for it. And I know it's only early days, but it was a hell of a result.
Big result, and the pack were very, very good. The front row were very, very good as well. But the real test will come when they're up against the likes of the Chiefs and the Crusaders and the Blues, and just how well the pack performs then. That'll then give us a better idea of just how good this Hurricanes team is, and just how far they may be able to progress into the season. But they ticked a lot of boxes in round one over there. The Blues, clinical, good. They were never in danger, to be fair, against the Drua. They won by 24 points in the end. I thought Caleb Clark, he looks very, very fit. He hasn't lost any power, but he looks a changed man. I don't know how many kilos he's dropped, but he looked very, very good.
Yeah, rumor has it he's almost basically what he was when he was running around in the Seventh Circuit with New Zealand, and to be at that weight and still have that power and that pace. I mean, it's only early days, but I mean, it'll be good to see him go the distance this year in terms of having no injuries and just looking after his body so that he can put out a good performance week in, week out. But to have him out on the wing there, and no doubt you'll be wanting to bring him in as much as possible on when they're coming from a left side or a right side, and try and figure out how we can utilize his power and his pace to hold defenses. But it's good to see him back full stride and expressing himself. I mean, it just showed in their preseason with some of the results that they had, and just some of the highlights of what he has been doing throughout their preseason. So yeah, it's exciting times for Caleb Clark and the Blues.
The Highlanders at home taking on Moana Pacifica, and Moana Pacifica gave them a run for their money. And when it was, I think it was all tied up at 21 all at one stage, it looked like Moana Pacifica they may be in for the upset over the Highlanders, and then we saw a wee bit of magic from Folau Fakatava and that Highlanders backline, and then in the blink of an eye, the Highlanders are off and gone. So what do you take out of that match?
Oh, I think it was just a good learnings for the Highlanders in terms of, we talked about the youth of their players and the excitement of actually being in Super Rugby. But not only that, you've got the mix of some of your experienced players that have been there to help guide a team. Obviously, Fakatava's been huge in terms of his development, being beside Nuggie. So his understanding around the game and how he can drive a team is huge. And that flick pass that I've seen him throw a few of them, and they've been pretty good. But I guess when it comes down to the back end of the game, that's when you need your experienced players to step up and help guide the team. But like you said, Moana pushed them and made sure that they weren't there just to make up numbers. They were there to prove a point. And if they keep up this and grow from it, I think they could be they might be off the wooden spoon.
As Searle alluded to, I think health is going to be a big factor for Moana Pacifica. They don't quite have the depth that other Super Rugby teams have, but if they can keep that first sort of 15 on the field as long as possible throughout the season, then I think you're right that they may not be the wooden spooners. There may be one or two of the Aussie sides who are sort of looking at the bottom of the table thinking, oh no, this not us, please not us. So, the other games, the Brumbies, once again shown that they're probably the class of the Aussie sides. They took care of the Rebels, who are on all sorts of turmoil, looks like on and off the field. They just looked at a wee bit of a shambles, and I don't know. It's super weak this week in Melbourne, but there's nothing super about that Rebel side.
No, not at all. I mean, got to give it to the Brumbies. They're a class outfit, like you said. But yeah, Brumbies, they could be the ones that might be holding the wooden spoon this season.
The old Rebels, yes.
Oh yes, Rebels.
Yeah.
Bloody hell! So yeah, it's a tough one. I guess if they can try and sort things out off the field and on the field, they potentially could come back and try and make something of it. But at the moment, I'm not entirely too sure that'll happen this quick anyway, especially it being in Melbourne.
Right, and of course the Reds took care of the Waratahs in a high-scoring affair. Reds probably looking like the next cab off the rank in terms of Aussie teams behind the Brumbies.
Yeah, well, obviously they've done their recruitment, but in terms of like how they're trying to push forward to try and make it in the competition, it's huge in terms of their development and trying to make sure that they continue from that and not just play one good game and then think that job's done. They've actually got to do it consistently for the remainder of the competition and get things done right.
Yeah, I thought Fraser McRae, the open side for the Reds, was very, very busy all game long and looked like he was fully fit, ready to go for the season. So looking forward to seeing him and how he progresses during the season. So
same as Hodgman. Yeah, he was over here playing Super Rugby over here, and then he's had that chance to go to the Reds and continue his craft. So it was good to actually see him run around in the Super Rugby still. Hopefully he can continue it and have no bloody issues with injury.
That's the big thing, injury. How many serious injuries did you have during your career?
I just had the one when I had my fracture dislocation playing for Wellington and the NPC, and that was probably my biggest injury that put me out the longest. I did come back in the back end of Super Rugby in 2011, but still not as fit as I should have been, but it was just kind of good to be back out on the field running around. I mean, it did play on my mind every time I laced up, and I played club for Wainui at the time, and the games that I did play for them, I was too scared to do things. My mind was telling me, look out, it's going to break again. So I was battling with that as well as the actual league itself being all right. So
how do you mentally, overcome something like when you come back from an injury like that and the doctor says everything's good, you're good to go, but in your mind you're thinking, I don't want to take a big knock to that part of the body. How do you overcome something like that?
Oh, it took me a while. It took me about 4 games to finally realize that the leg is fine and that you should just actually play footy and not worry so much about it. But before that, You know, every time I was at the base of a ruck, I just wanted to get rid of the ball. Not that I was always the fastest guy there to the ruck, but I mean, when I did get there, it was get rid of the ball straight away so no one could actually touch me. And then if it looked like someone was actually going to tackle me, I would always try and get rid of the ball straight away, just because I didn't want to be going into contact just in case I fought awkwardly. I'd always lift my leg off the ground just so that it wouldn't.
Oh, so if someone did hit, it wasn't like
I didn't have the same.
it wasn't anchored to the ground.
Exactly. I was up on my feet, so that in the air, sorry, and so that if I did get hit or anything like that, at least the leg was fine, even though I might have got winded. But it was tough. I mean, even I had TJ Penanada had the exact same injury as me, and like he was messaging me around it, and I said, bro, the toughest part for me coming back was when I started playing, because I was too scared that it might happen again after, months and months of hard work getting back onto the field. That part was absolutely fine. I was running perfect. As soon as I come
so the rehab that went well.
Rehab and everything was fine. Like we were on par in terms of the recovery side of it and getting myself back into running and things like that. So that was perfectly fine. And then it was more when you start playing a game, you pass the ball and someone looks like they're going to come and hit you, and you quickly lift your foot up like, oh.
And then the body goes.
Yeah, and braces and stuff like that. But that was the hardest part was, the running and all that was fine when no one was around. But when you start going into contact and stuff like that, that's when you sort of start getting a bit, I don't really want to go into contact. And then it took a while, 4 games, and then finally felt more and more comfortable and confident that I had done the rehab. I had done what I needed to be back out on the field.
The leg's good again.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, well, we're going to have another chat with Searle. We're going to have a look at his tips from last week, and he's going to give us his tips for this week as well, round 2, Super Round in Melbourne. Righty-ho, we're back with Searle again, and we're going to have a look back on how he went punting-wise or tipping-wise in terms of round 1 Super Rugby Pacific 2024. And Searle, you had a certain amount of success.
Yeah, well, 2 from 2, mate. I was pretty happy. I was stoked that I left the force out of my multis. Unfortunately, I encourage you to chuck them in yours, so deepest apologies for that. But yeah, I had my virtual $100. I had 25 on the Chiefs, 1 to 12, which saluted, and then I had a $75 multi with the Blues, the Landers, and the Chiefs all to win, paying $2.45. So fingers crossed some punters got on that, and yeah, ignored that Hurricanes call. I won't be betting against them for a little while now.
Right. Let's look forward to round 2. And round 2 kicks off with a New Zealand derby, kicking off at 8 o'clock Friday night. The Highlanders hosting the Blues. And the Highlanders, even after that performance in round 1, are significant outsiders. They're $4.60 in the match result market, $1.18 the Blues. And they're 14.5-point underdog. The Highlanders, 14.5-point underdogs at home at time of recording. Searle, does that attract you in any way?
It's an interesting one. As soon as I saw it, I thought Blues 13 plus, but I wasn't overly confident. So when I saw that point start, I was a little surprised because 14.5 is a lot. I do think, though, that the Blues will prove that they are a bit of a better side than the Highlanders. I saw some signs from the Highlanders last week that perhaps some of those top teams might look to expose them in a few areas. So I'll be back in the Blues. I just think they're hot to trot at the moment. The games are over in Melbourne, so no real home ground advantage. And I think they'll travel a little better. So I like the Blues on that 13 plus at $1.70.
Right, the next New Zealand team to play in round 2, the Crusaders taking on the Waratahs. Crusaders $1.12. The Tars at $6, draws at 26. The Crusaders are they 16.5? They are 17.5-point favourites at home. And I guess after the performance they put up against the Chiefs last week, you can understand why the bookies have got them so short.
Yeah, big time. And I think the Waratahs, I predicted them to win the Spoon, and I thought they looked pretty average last week too. So I expect the Crusaders will have just too much across the park, and I'll be backing them 13 plus. Don't mind that line either, just for a little more value. I think they'll be way too good.
Chiefs, Brumbies, Sunday afternoon. The Chiefs $1.37. Brumbies $3.20. The draws at $18. The Chiefs, after beating the Crusaders by, was it 4 points last weekend, they're 8.5 point favourites against the Brumbies.
Yeah, this is one of those games, like I said, where we're going to get to see where the Aussie teams are at, because the Brumbies, historically, they've been the best of the bunch. And this could be an interesting clash. I think the Chiefs might have come away with a couple niggles from that game last week as well in terms of health. So really keen to see what their team looks like once it's announced. But I would expect the Chiefs to get the win in this one. I think the line is probably set spot on. I'll be backing them win 1-12, I think, in that winning team and margin, though, because I think the Brumbies will give them a big run. It's paying $2.70. I think there's a bit of value there.
Of course, when I said home, the ball games are in Melbourne. So apart from the Reds, it's they're neutral venues for everyone. The Canes, 6:30 Sunday New Zealand time. Canes $1.30, Reds $3.60, and the Canes 10.5 point favourites. Are you attracted by that 10.5 point line for the Hurricanes there, Searle?
It's an interesting one again, because I think the Reds look like they've got a good team on paper over in Aussie as well. So you could argue that they are the home side. I think the Canes will get the win, but I'm slightly worried in terms of that point start and your margins. So I just like them straight up head to head at that $1.30 mark. And I think if I had to pick a margin, I'll probably go the 1-12, because there's a lot of talk out of Brisbane that this team could be a genuine title contender. We'll get a better read this week, but I think play it safe with the Canes. I learned my lesson from last week on this Wellington side. Paulie, you were trying to tell me. Piri's been really trying to tell me. I ignored you both. Now I'm going to listen. I'll just take them head to head, though, at the $1.30.
Righty-ho. You've got your $100 to spend on round 2, Searle. How are you going to spend it? And I'm guessing, well, you've already declared you're not going to be taking the Canes minus 10.5, but I'm guessing they may be head to head in a multi somewhere.
Yeah, so I've got a 3-leg multi and then a 4-leg multi with $50 on each, and I'm going in on the New Zealand sides, as you would expect. So the first multi is the Hurricanes just head to head at $1.30. I like the draw Moana, the points to be the overs. I think it's set at 62.5. Last year when they played, it was almost 100 points in that game. So I think both of them are going to look to play some running rugby, a massive grudge match for the two of them. So I like the overs on that one. And then the Crusaders 13 plus. I still think there's a bit of value there at $1.47. And then for my second multi, I went Blues 13 plus, Crusaders 13 plus. I like the Chiefs 1-12. And then I just went the Canes on the nose again, because I can't bring myself to pick a margin for that one. That one's paying $9, so I really like that bet as well.
Very good. I'm guessing that if the Chiefs get up 1-12, that's going to be your favourite betting option for the rest of the season. Chiefs 1-12.
Yeah. Look, to be fair, they've had a pretty tough start to the year, haven't they? The Crusaders into the Brumbies. So I think that they deserve to be winners, and everyone should be tipping them in. But I think they're taking on 2 of potentially 4 of the best teams in the competition. So I expect this game to be pretty tight.
Fantastic, Searle. Thanks for that. Good luck with your punting this weekend. And if any of our listeners follow you in, I hope them the best of luck as well. Don't forget, we've got the Pick and Go tipping comp as well, Searle. You're all signed up, ready to go for that. And remember, it starts round 2, so don't worry if you weren't in for round 1. The points don't count until round 2, which starts this Friday, 8 o'clock in Melbourne. Highlanders taking on the Blues. Searle, you keen on your chances in the tipping comp this year?
Yeah, just the one slip up last week. I've learnt my lessons again, and I'm going to move on, take some form into this one. So yeah, I don't mind it. I saw a lot of people tipping the perfect round as well. So I'd say there'll be a few punters out there that are feeling pretty confident of perhaps taking home some of those generous prizes on offer.
Excellent. We'll talk again after round 2, where we have a look at how we went, and I look forward to round 3 next week. But until then, Searle, go well, and we'll talk again.
Cheers, mate.
Righty-ho, Piri. Let's have a look towards. Well, we'll have a little look back to last week, and you weren't too far off, I don't think. I think you had a $50 multi, Chiefs, Canes, and Landers all head-to-head, $50. So that went tick, 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 tick. Very good. You had the Canes to win 12 and under in a single, and that was probably off the back of Searle trying to convince you that the Force were a bit of a go, because he convinced me as well. So we'll blame Searle for that one. And then I think you had D-Mac to be first try scorer in that Chiefs Crusaders game, the first game of Super Rugby Pacific 2024. And although he didn't score the first try, boy, oh boy, he looked very, very good when he was on the field.
He shouldn't have passed it. He should have just dummied and win himself. No.
Okay, let's have a look to this week, and we'll preview a few of the games. First game up, Highlanders Blues. Highlanders, $4.60. The Blues, $1.18. Can you give us a reason to back the Highlanders, or is it all about the Blues warmed up nicely in round 1 with that win over the Drua, and they're just going to get better here?
Well, if it was me and I wanted to try and make a bit of money, I would back the Landers, hoping that they'll come through. But that's just me being salty, really, because they're doing really well, the Blues. You just want to try, and that might be their week that they potentially might rest some of their big boys, thinking that they've got it in the bag. So I don't know. It's a tough one, but if I was going to pick, I would. My gut's telling me to go with the Blues. The money's telling me to go with the Landers.
Well, we'll find out a wee bit later when you decide what you're going to do with your $100 this week, exactly how you feel about that game. Because you can talk all you like about a game, but until you put money down,
it's totally different.
Then we know who you really, really think is going to win. We should touch on the big Pacific derby. Moana Pacifica, $2.80 up against the Fijian Drua at $1.42. The Drua are 8.5-point favourites now at $1.87. Did you see enough in that game against the Highlanders by Moana Pacifica to think they can keep this game close?
Yeah, I think they've third season in the competition. They've got a few scalps under their belt, and they're slowly improving. Obviously, with the new management now, coaching staff, it's a chance for them to sort of work on being a bit better than they were the last time. So I'm pretty sure this will be a close game. And well, just from what I've seen with the Highlanders in the Moana Pacifica game on the weekend, it'll definitely be a big game. It just depends on whether you can contain the flying Fijians and the offloads and their pace, which I know that the Moana Pacifica boys would be able to do that, contain them, but show a bit more of their power against the Drua. And yeah, it'll make for a good game. Definitely going to be a tough one to pick.
I'm guessing that you're not going to have that in one of your multis this weekend then.
You never know.
Well, we're going to find out.
Well, you'll never know.
We're going to find out. Crusaders. Oh, boy. Waratahs, watch out. In fact, the Crusaders have put a few cricket scores on the Waratahs over the Super Rugby.
They have.
So they're $1.10. They were $1.12, and punters have jumped on straight away. So $1.12 into $1.10, the Crusaders, and the Waratahs are now out to $7 in that match result market. This is just, I mean, before the season started, we mentioned the fact that the Crusaders, they lost Whitelock, they lost their coach, Scott Robertson, Richie Moanga, Lester Whanganuku. a whole lot of class out of that, and then we see a guy in a 15 jersey come down from up north into there, and he looked really, really good, Fihaki. It's almost like they put that red and black jersey on, and they grow another league.
I think it's more the fact that they can express the way that they play within their structures. I'm no doubt with the structures that they've had over the years. Every time someone comes along, they just slot straight in there. But it's always around their leadership, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty good on nailing their spine every year. The Crusaders, which helps in terms of their guidance for 80 minutes in a game, and help those players grow. So, yeah, I mean, geez, he was pretty electric, wasn't he, when he had his opportunities? And it's pretty exciting to see him run around with the Crusaders.
They're going to be too good, aren't they? They're going to be too good.
Watching the Super Rugby over the weekend, and even though they lost in the tough battle between them and the Chiefs, yeah, I'd probably say they're going to be way too good.
Right, outside of Moana Pacifica, Fiji and Drua game, the match of the round, probably the next game, the Chiefs Brumbies. Chiefs $1.37, the Brumbies $3.20 in that match result market. Chiefs 8.5 point favourites. The game total in this one is 57.5. Does that point start Brumbies plus 8.5 tempt you at all? That's a no.
Nah, not really. But in saying that, I mean, for some reason they always seem to get up when it comes to the New Zealand teams, and it's just whether they can do that for 80 minutes, the Brumbies. So, I mean, it'll be a tough ask considering the form that the Chiefs are in at the moment, especially with that tough encounter that they had last week to grind out a win, even though they look very, very good. And I guess, actually, the other one is whether D-Mac's is going to be back. He come off injured on the weekend.
Picked up an injury, he did.
So hopefully it's just something small and not too big that he can actually lace up this week. But we won't know until, I guess, Wednesday, Thursday, when they announce their squads.
Funny, they had an ex-All Black come on in the second half of them, the Chiefs, and was it Josh Ioane? So there was a wee bit of depth there anyway, but just the way that D-Mac played in that first half, he was electric. He was almost the catalyst for every sort of attacking move that the Chiefs had. He was superb. So it'd be great to see him there, and also give Scott Robertson another sort of, I guess, a piece to the jigsaw puzzle when he starts to decide who he wants in his All Black. I'm sure D-Mac will be in there, just in what jersey is he going to be. And he certainly put his hand up in round one to say, hey, that number 10 jersey, don't forget me. I'm good to go.
I'm knocking on the door.
Yeah. Hurricanes Reds. Hurricanes are $1.30. The Reds are $3.60. Hurricanes are 10.5 point favourites. The total is at 58.5. Canes just continue on their winning ways here after last week.
Well, consistency has been one of the struggles in the past, and so hoping that this year they've, under new guidance with their coach, they try and go back to back with wins to show a bit of consistency. But I'm tipping them to do it. But I mean, if the Reds are pushing to be the second best team in Australia, they're not going to make this easy for the Canes.
Right, it's business time. You've got your $100. How are you going to go about spending it this week in Super Rugby round 2?
I'll do a multi, and I've got in my multi I'll have $50. It'll be Moana Chiefs and the Canes. And I'll put 25 on Moana to get over the Drua. And I'll put $25 on who would I pick last week that I probably shouldn't have?
Last week, Chiefs, Canes, Landers in a multi.
D-Mac was my top,
D-Mac was your first try
scorer.
scorer, yeah. And as we speak, teams haven't been announced
I
yet.
know.
So
that's the hardest part, trying to guess it. I'll go with Caleb Clark to score the first try.
Beautiful.
Let's just hope the Blues put all the energy into giving him the ball.
I think he'll go looking for the ball anyway. So. I just took one bet last week and I missed out because Searle convinced me to take the force plus the points and they were terrible. So I'm not listening to Searle anymore. I'm going to go fairly simple. I'm going to go the Blues head-to-head. I'm going to go the Crusaders 13 and over. And I'm going to go the Hurricanes head-to-head as well. $100 on that. 3-leg multi. Blues head-to-head. Crusaders 13 and over. Hurricanes head-to-head. Boom, done. Now, don't forget, we've got our Pick and Go Super Rugby tipping comp this week. Piri, you ready to put your selections in there and get the ball running? Of course, it starts in round 2, so don't worry if you've just if you're joining after round 1, because no points were scored in round 1 in terms of our tipping comp. So the tipping comp starts from round 2. There are some prizes at the end of the season as well for TAB account holders. We've got some bonus bets to give away. So get in there, have a bit of fun, and see how you go against Piri Weepu and against Searle as well. And I'm having a go, but yeah, I'll probably be the wooden spooner of the competition. To be fair,
I don't know what this is a new thing for me, so I need to get on, pick up my game.
What else have we got? So yes, Friday 8:00 round 2 starts with Highlanders Blues. So get your picks in before then. Have a bit of fun this season and see how you go up against former All Black Piri Weepu, who's now a professional fisherman, I believe.
No way. I'm terrible at fishing. I don't mind being in the water and trying to hunt for food.
Also, we've got a same game claim on the Highlanders Blues, Rebels Force, Moana Pacifica, Fiji and Drua, Crusaders Waratahs, Chiefs Brumbies, Hurricanes Reds. So just place a 3 or more leg same game multi on any of those games and get a refund up to $50 as a bonus bet if you miss by 1 leg. So there's plenty of opportunities for you there to get on. Don't forget the Oval Ball Mega Multi-Buster as well. Check out all the T's and C's at the DAB website in the Punters Lounge. I think we've got through another week, Piri, hoping that we are pretty successful when we come back next week to review what went on.
I'm just writing down all my notes from all my picks. I'm like, I better make sure I get them right this week.
Look, I think we're going to go well this week because we're not being influenced by Searle. So, but to be fair, he was very, very close to picking the round last week. Outside of that Force Hurricanes game, I think he was pretty close to the mark. So, if you want to follow him, go ahead. If you want to follow Piri, go ahead. If you want to follow me, take a look at yourself in the mirror. Don't do that. I wouldn't do it. That's it. We're done.
Sure.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the Pick and Go podcast. We'll be back again next week. This time next week, we'll have all 3 of us talking at the same time, I'm pretty sure. So it won't be as disjointed. But enjoy the Super Rugby this weekend. It's Super Rugby weekend in Melbourne. All the best for your bets. And if you're having to go at the tipping comp, all the best there too.